Good evening, this is Maria from Barefoot Holistics with you in mind, and today we've got our guest speaker RJ Raymond from the UK. I'd like to welcome RJ, or Bex as I call her, to the chat now. Good evening RJ, well, do you prefer RJ or Bex?
I really don't mind, whatever comes to mind.
Okay. All right, namaste and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and there's nobody with us yet. I think we actually started on time, that's probably why. So, for anybody watching afterwards, RJ is a writer, musician, and healer, and she works with multiple modalities, including, I can't even read my own writing, 6th generation master practitioner. Louis, come here. Louis, come here. Louis, oi, Louis, come here, please. Come on, sit down. I'm not supposed to be getting stressed out right now. Where was I? Okay, we'll start again. Gotta love the dogs. So 6th generation practitioner of Hirai Shiki Reiki and 12th generation master teacher of Western Usui Reiki, celestial sound and advanced angelic crystalline light language healing, and she's taught internationally and retreats in the Sahara desert, and personally she's one of my heroes. So welcome again, RJ. We've got somebody on. I can't see who they are, but we've got somebody on, which is good.
Okay. Hello.
So Bex, I'll just hand it over to you if you'd like to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to doing what you do, and what you're going to discuss with us tonight.
Okay, well, you just read out a small biography, so I won't go into too much detail, but I've got a many years path in self-development work and healing modalities. I don't have one of these stories where I was stuck in the corporate world and then I had an awakening. I'm very fortunate and blessed to have stepped onto this learning curve and work at a relatively early age. So I've collected lots of modalities along the way, but really there are three main threads to my life which continue. One is music, one is writing, and the other one is healing. And they all blend into each other at different times. So the music brings the whole concept of harmony, frequency, and vibration into the healing work. And so I've done quite a lot of work with sound healing. And the writing, I will write about musical things, about healing things. And yeah, they're very intertwined. But at the moment, despite the fact that I have done teaching for the past 3 or 4 years, extensively in Morocco and in Spain, I came back to England not so long ago now, and began to finish a project of mine which is very close to my heart, which is a project about recovery. And I think that everybody at some point has had something that they need to recover from. Absolutely. And in this particular environment that we've just spent the last 3 months in, I found it really interesting to be writing and listening to a lot of the interviews that I've done for research for the book, and found that the process of recovery is something that, whether you're applying it to an addiction, which is what the book is about, it's about addiction recovery, but whether you're applying it to addiction, or whether you're applying it to bereavement, or whether you're applying it to something else, that you know, the recovery process has got certain, I call them landmarks. They've got landmarks in common. So the title of the book is The 6 Universal Landmarks in Recovery. And yeah, I mean, it's a big title. It's changed so many times over.
It's a good title, though.
Thank you. It kind of does what it says on the tin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think anybody who's on a healing path, especially if you choose the path of the wounded healer, you have a lot of things that come up in terms of initiations is a word which is often used, tests, challenges that provide you with opportunity for growth, and they're things that you recover from, and the recovery process becomes more refined, and lots of things can be put in your path in order to give you that opportunity to grow. And so, and one of the things that 20 years ago, I was an addict. I had a drug addiction, and the book, even though the recovery process itself has a wider umbrella, I was just going to blow my head apart if I tried to write about everything. So I've just focused on addiction.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about addiction recovery today is because I found it really interesting, the whole lockdown process. I personally feel that when you say addiction, people straight away think about drugs and alcohol. But I actually feel, and speaking to people, I feel that society is suffering from an addiction. And it's the addiction to more.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Right? And in lockdown, I think, is probably, whether they've been aware of it or not, really drawn people's attention and put a little bit of focus on the fact that we haven't been able to get the things that we've been used to getting. So in that sense, we've had our supply of more of whatever it is taken away from us. And I know that people have been going through the equivalent of withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well, because and the amount of people that say things like, "Oh, when I want the things to go back to how it was." That's an addiction,
Yeah, I mean, I think this. Yeah, it can be an addiction. I would say is a compulsive habit, something that causes you harm if you continue. So,
something that you feel back to how where is going to cause us harm.
Well, let's just look at something like shopping for clothes, right? That's one of the things which is I would say it falls into the addiction of more. So you feel like compelled to go out on a Saturday and buy yourself something from the shops. And if you don't get to do that, it creates tension in your body. And I know that at the beginning of lockdown, a lot of people were experiencing this. I can't do that. I have, it's a compulsion. This can be to shopping, it could be to eating out in restaurants, it could be to buying things online. A lot of these habits have actually been pushed onto us, and I'm following on the addiction metaphor here, by government and by the society and the capitalism and the set of conditions that mostly first world societies live in. And we've actually been turned into addicts, whether we realise it or not.
This is what I mean when people are saying they want things to go back to how they were. I think they encompass all of that when they say that, because they were restricted. They couldn't go shopping. They couldn't go out to eat. They couldn't go visit friends. They couldn't go nightclubbing. I think that's kind of encompassed in just that one saying, with want things to go back to how they were. Basically, what they were saying is they want freedom back and the ability to shopaholic.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think that having freedom or being addicted to freedom is damaging, because really, when you talk about that word addiction, it implies that there's some harm being done. But when you think about people's addiction to judgment of others, people's addiction to needing to have success defined by property or status in society, look at all the racist divide things that are going on at the moment. People, it could be argued, are addicted to needing to be defined.
Yes.
Okay, so these are all things that when you go to the root of them, they take away from our sense of wholeness, and that we actually have everything that we already need within us.
Yes.
Because they imply a lack. So I can't go shopping. That means that I've got a lack of something, and this is where the tension begins. So when in the book I'm talking about recovery as a place, because when we make a journey, we go to a place to do it. All right.
Yeah.
And there's 6 landmarks that there exist in this metaphorical place, and there's 6 universal experiences that somebody will go through if they're on a recovery journey.
Yeah.
And the first one is surrendering. The second one is an opening up. The third one is understanding. The fourth one is a very practical one. It's practical aspect of recovery. The fifth one is communication. And the 6th one is evolution. And I'm proposing in the book that unless you actually take time and spend time to explore those core places in a recovery journey, you won't ever be able to get out of recovery, and you'll be a permanent resident. You won't be able to take the last step, which is go through this revolving gateway of evolution and make a personal transformation.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really like that, because nothing's static in this world anyway, is it? So we're continuously evolving unless we get stuck in that.
Yeah, and also it's a multi-dimensional place. So the revolving door, should I say, you can go out of it and then you go back in, and then all of a sudden you're looking at the recovery process from a slightly higher place on on the spiral of knowledge and wisdom that you're attaining each time you do that journey. And I'm sure that anyone who works in the healing arts will understand that it is constant work. Constant work. And you may not be dealing with recovering from an addiction, but you may have to recover from a trip to the supermarket or somebody else's toxic energy. Okay, and the reason why I call these universal landmarks is because I've kind of taken them and tested them out in situations that I've personally been through. For example, one of the most recent, one of the most recent and probably the hardest work that I've ever had to do was when my marriage broke down. So I had to recover from that. And then I was thinking to myself, well, where was the addiction in that? What was it that I was addicted to, which meant that I went back into that place of addiction, and therefore had to get my visa stamped and go into recovery again. And I discovered that I was addicted to dreams and fairy tale fantasies of romance and what the nature of a relationship was.
Mills and bones, here we come.
Yeah. So we can all sit down and maybe take a piece of paper at some point and just have a little think about what are the things that we feel compelled to do. They're habitual, and if they're taken away from us, we start to get tense. That's an indication of whether you're somewhere on the frequency of need, of addiction, and of some kind of scarcity mentality. Okay. So there's an exercise that you can do because I know that you wanted people to kind of talk about practicalities rather than just the theory of things.
I'm surprised there's nobody on. Usually we have at least 9 or 10 people on. Nobody's on tonight.
Well, it's fine. I think possibly because it was #addiction recovery, people are likely to have sat there and go, well, I'm not addicted to anything. I don't need to listen to this.
Maybe I should have just put #recovery.
It's fine. It's recorded, so if anyone's watching it afterwards, hello, and thanks for taking the time. So I mean, it's a big subject, and instead of going through the whole of the 6 landmarks and exercises for each one, my idea was to just talk about surrender and opening up. a little bit today. And in terms of recovery as a place, in the book, it's a map, and each landmark has particular features and terrain. And Surrender is a place that is a mountain range.
Right, yeah.
Because surrender can be a very arduous task. It can be the kind of climbing that you have to do where you slip on the snow and you go back to the beginning and you start again. I've done a lot of interviews with people who have been in recovery from addiction, and I did these interviews without really imposing my template on them, because I wanted to find out whether it was actually true, these places that I felt were universal. And all of them have said that surrender is a form of admission. So when I'm talking about, have a little think about something that maybe you would really miss if it wasn't there, and it would make you feel tense because it wasn't there, and that you do in a compulsive manner, right? Then that's a form of admission. And there's different levels of admission. You can admit it to yourself and then just go, oh, well, that's true. I've admitted it now, and it will still exist.
Yeah.
Or you can admit it to yourself and realize that in order to change it, you have to change your position somehow in your life. You know, that classic quote from Einstein that you can't change anything if you're looking at it from the same place.
Yeah.
It's very much related to that kind of internal work. But initially, facing aspects of yourself, or actually going through the process, the situation where you can't have that thing that you want more of, it can create tension in your body. So there's a really, really simple way to relax. It's really quick, and it was taught to me through the classes and the teachers that I've been so blessed to meet, whose healing techniques are based in martial arts. Oh, hi, Kathy.
Welcome.
So Kathy's arrived, and Maria, you've arrived at an interesting point, because we've gone through quite a lot already. So in a nutshell, I was just about to show Maria, and now you two as well, a relaxation exercise which is really, really efficient, very, very quick, and you can do it in literally a minute. And the way that I was shown it was from a Shaolin monk, and he was standing in front of the class, and he said to everyone, right, are you relaxed? And we all said, yeah, we're all really relaxed. And he said, prove it. And of course, everyone's standing there kind of going,
How do you prove that I'm relaxed?
Yeah. How do you prove it? So that it goes back to a very simple story of how do you know when an apple is good? How do you know when you've got a good apple in your hand? Because you know what a bad apple looks like.
Yeah.
So this is opposites, polarity, and the wisdom, the knowledge that comes from being aware of two opposite ends of the pole. And you can do this with your body. So the opposite of relaxation is tension. So it's very simple exercise. All you do is you start, don't do it with me, I'll just show you what it is first. You start by making fists, and you make your fist as tight as possible, and then you make the rest of your body really, really tense, and then you release the tension. Okay. But do you want to have a go at it with me?
It's actually one of the techniques we use in hypnotherapy, Adri.
Yeah. Well, this is something that I love about the fact that what I found through all these decades of being interested in and practicing different modalities from different cultures is that they have got roots that are, how can I say, techniques that are rooted in the human body, and the human body is the same for everybody. So you will find that definitely have things in common. And I think watching the QiGong one the other week, I saw I saw, is it Mark?
Yeah, he's great,
Mark was
Mark.
talking about a similar exercise.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of crossover, I think, in many different modalities and cultures. I've found as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it.
So tension, the reason why this is a great exercise as well is that tension, and the reason why it's connected to this surrender, is that tension is something that happens when you're in a state of resistance, when you're battling through something, when you're fighting with something internally. It creates resistance, and what this does is puts your body and your brain into fight or flight, so you've got an excess of adrenaline running through your system, and this can have an effect on your kidney systems, and your kidney systems are actually connected to your ears. So often you'll find that you get earache as well, or a pain in your ear if you're experiencing too much tension. Okay, so
Yeah.
all you have to do is, you can stand or you can sit to do this, right? You make a fist out of both of your hands and you clench them as tight as possible. And then you feel that tension going into your arms, and you feel the tension going into your shoulders, and you tense as much of your body as you can. Tension goes into your shoulders, into the back of your shoulders, into your chest, into your stomach, into your butt cheeks, into your thighs, your calves and your feet, and you hold it for a little bit longer. Really tense as much as you can, the top of your head, your forehead, and then let it go. Exhale and let it go, and then take a deep breath in and just feel the relaxation. And let's do it one more time. Okay, and this time we're going to try and hold it a little bit longer. Okay,
Okay, Tasha.
making fists.
Make a fist.
Squeeze those fists together. Feel the tension going into your arms, into your shoulders, back of your shoulders, your shoulder blades, your back and your chest, and then your stomach. You squeeze your butt cheeks and your thighs. It can make you feel a bit shaky, but keep squeezing. Squeeze all the way down your legs and squeeze your feet as hard as possible. Hold it. A few seconds more. And then let go. Let your arms drop. Take a deep breath in. So it's very simple, but there's clearly a slight change in the way that your body feels, isn't there?
Absolutely, yeah.
And can you feel your heart beating? Okay. So this is a really nice point, especially if you're releasing emotional tension, to just place your hands on your heart and feel your heart beating. And then just take some deep breaths, and you'll feel your heart start to slow down, because it will, the rate of it will be slightly quicker than normal. Focus on your heart, relax, and as you feel it slowing down, when you're inhaling, send that loving energy into your emotional center. Your face might feel a little bit warm. And there's definitely a shift in the energy in your body. So this is very simple relaxation technique. It can be a little bit challenging to do that if you're in the supermarket. But it's very interesting that you see toddlers do this.
Yeah.
Small babies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's their way of releasing tension.
Yeah.
So surrendering, because for those people who missed the beginning, we were just talking about surrendering being a universal landmark in the recovery journey. And in the book that I'm writing, surrender is depicted as a huge mountain range. And surrendering is described by many addicts that I've interviewed as an admission process. And we're talking about addiction in the context of lockdown, and quite a lot of people have discovered that they've had withdrawal symptoms from the things that they've been compelled to do, like shopping, for example, and that this is actually a societal addiction, and the reason why it's appropriate to talk about it now. The next stage is the opening up. Now, opening up, when you get to the top of the mountain and you've climbed the mountain of surrender and you've admitted and you've decided that you want to make a change, you come to this open plateau. It's like a big flat plateau, an open vista, and there's an amazing telescope on the top of there. And you can sit down on cushions and chill out and have a bit of a rest from climbing the mountain of surrender, and have a look through the telescope, because you've actually taken a different position.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've allowed yourself to have a different perspective on a habit that you have realized, you on a compulsive habit that you realize that you have. Okay. So this is open vista, and it's an opportunity for you to open up to the consequences of the behavioral pattern. Okay. Now I keep going back to the fact that it's addiction, but as I say, this can apply across the board to any kind of recovery process that you've been through. I mentioned recovering from a broken relationship. That if you apply this concept to that, you've surrendered to the fact that the relationship is broken. You've struggled up the mountain and surrendered to the fact that you have to take yourself away from that relationship, and you get to this point at the top where you've made that change, and now you're looking at everything from a completely new perspective. Okay, it's just a time to take a little bit of rest.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
When we're talking about journeys and recovery journeys, it can also be easily translated into spiritual journey.
Yeah.
So I wanted to read you this amazing couple of paragraphs by a lady called Debbie Ford.
Yeah.
I've got it in front of me. Shall I read it out?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So she writes that surrender is the ultimate sign of strength and the foundation for a spiritual life. And I'm just going to interrupt her there, because it's interesting, isn't it? People see surrender as a sign of weakness.
Absolutely not, no.
I give up. And they see it can be a moment of vulnerability. And as you know, vulnerability does not indicate weakness. Vulnerability indicates strength, because it means that you're able to recognize your limits. And only through recognizing your limits, and if we look at it in terms of a box, you know, where you are in the relation to the box is your limit. And only once you know what they are, you can start to climb out of the box. And as we know, that's where the magic happens, to coin a phrase.
Yeah.
So she, you know, says it's the ultimate sign of strength. And she says, surrendering affirms that we are no longer willing to live in pain. It expresses a deep desire to transcend our struggles and transform our negative emotions. It commands the life beyond our egos, beyond that part of ourselves that is continually, that's, I don't know why I'm nervous, so continually reminding us that we are separate, different, and alone.
Yeah.
Surrendering allows us to return to our true nature and move effortlessly through the cosmic dance called life. It's a powerful statement that proclaims the perfect order of the universe. So that's really interesting, because right at the very beginning, we were talking about the nature of a compulsive habit or an addiction, which can be, as we've said, across the board: eating chocolate, not eating properly, not sleeping,
Smoking.
yeah, worrying too much, judging people. It can even be compulsively meditating.
Oh.
You know, there's a lot of different aspects of it, but the indication of it is if it gets taken away from you, does it make you feel like all of a sudden you're lacking something?
Yeah.
And this sentence, that surrendering is a powerful statement that proclaims the perfect order of the universe, to me means that when you realize that you're not lacking anything, that's when you're starting to realize that everything is there for you. It's that classic holistic way of looking at things, that you actually have everything that you need.
Yeah, it's all within.
The difference between scarcity mentality and abundance mentality, the difference between a lack and an abundance of. And it has to start with a state of body, then a state of mind, and then they become aligned, and then it moves up into your soul energy, and then that line can go further and further and further and up and into the matrix and into spirit, and then send that frequency all around you, and then like attract like, and then you start to attract abundance into you. All right, so surrendering can really, really help you to accept that you have everything that you need. It's really challenging, you know. Look at the lockdown situation. How could most people sit there and say, I've got everything I need? But by the end of the 3 months, I think a lot of people have really, really had big awakenings about the fact that what they need is so much less than what they thought that they needed before lockdown.
I mean, for me, it didn't really make a difference in lockdown, to be honest, because and my life didn't change in any way, because this is how I live anyway. So, you know, I don't really socialise outside much. I only go shopping for food. So, my life didn't change really, and it's no different now. Now that it's open. Well, apart from yesterday, I went for a coffee with a friend for the first time yesterday at her house. So, but
well, it's interesting because social interaction is also connected to a need. If you are the kind of person who needs to be accepted by other people and who needs social interaction in order to create that sense of acceptance in yourself, and then all of a sudden the social interaction is taken away, that's been very difficult for people.
Yeah, it has for a lot of people, and I totally understand that, because years ago I was in that place. You know, I had a massive social circle in the UK back then, before I got ill. Before my back went out, you know, and I used to socialise a lot. I was never home. Tasha will tell you, I was never home. You know, if I weren't working, I were out. So, but yeah, I know what that felt like. But I'm not there now. I'm in a different place now. As we talk about evolution. So
yeah, exactly. So, talking in terms of the journey, I mean, I might as well go through the other points, because they are applicable, whether you consider yourself an addict or not, whether you, as I suggested to Maria to do, or anybody who's watching to do, just take a little time to think about: is there something that I feel that I need, and then when it's taken away from me, I really can't handle it? Okay, because that's an opportunity to go on a recovery journey. So we've gone up the mountains of surrender, we've sat on the open vista and had a little bit of a rest, we've looked at things from a new perspective, and then we start going down the mountain and into the valley of understanding. Now, the valley of understanding is the place where you get to the bottom and you can still see that thing. In the case of an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction, it is the addiction itself over you like a black cloud. Okay, you're still at the place where it seems to be bigger than you and where it can rain on you at any point. So the valley of understanding is a physical standing under, but it's also understanding that actually not so long ago you were on top of the mountain. You were spending time opening up to yourself about this, and you could look down on that cloud and you could see the sunshine above that cloud.
yeah,
It's like a weather system. You actually can move out of that. All right. Physical touch and hugs from lots of people, says Natasha. So I'm assuming that is something that you feel like you want more of, and you've missed. See, that to me, I wouldn't put that in the category of being an addiction or a compulsive habit that can cause harm, unless it falls into a codependency, or unless you feel like you're worthless unless you get that. I think that everybody has missed physical touch. Everybody.
Yeah, I think physical touch and hugs is part of the human condition, if that's the right word, need, requirement as a human being. We need that interaction.
Yeah.
I mean, I get hugs and stuff from my dogs, which I know is not probably the same as a hug from a human, but it's still that connection, isn't it? And I think people miss, not miss, might not associate it like that if they have pets. You know, that they might not. I'm sorry, I'm not finding the words, Vex. They might not associate the hug, the emotion thing, the same as with from a person. So rather than going into the lack and the fear of not having that again, is finding that. Oh my God, where are my words tonight? Finding the
substitute or replacement, do you mean?
the replacement or the substitute or the yeah, in the animal. So that rather than thinking that you've not got it or there's a big lack, is appreciating that you can receive it from your dog, even if it's just temporary until lockdown's over. So rather than going into the panic mode and whatever, accept it and appreciate it and be grateful for that you can receive from your pet, if you know what I mean. Does that make any sense? Because I'm babbling.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody who's got pets has had the experience of, thank goodness that they've got pets during the lockdown, because chemicals are released when we have physical touch, don't they? I mean, let's just as an exercise look at what Natasha's said and think about, instead of it being in the context of addiction recovery, let's think about it in terms of recovery from the lack of physical touch that we've had, whether it be from a human or an animal. Some people haven't got pets, and let's just see if that recovery, if the landmarks in that recovery journey actually apply. I'm quite, this is going to be quite interesting because I've never applied it to this context before. So first of all, all of a sudden you can't hug anybody. You have to climb the mountains and surrender to the fact that you can't hug anybody. Right, so the exchange of loving energy is what's going on when you're hugging people. And if that's taken away from you, then it can cause a great deal of tension. So let's go on the journey and see if we can walk through the gateway to evolution, to understand that you can recover from that terrible sense of missing that you have. So, you climb up this mountain of surrender. There's nothing you can do about it. You have to give in and stop fighting the fact that you want it, because actually it's just not there. Okay, and once you stop fighting the fact that you want it and you admit that it's not there anymore and there's nothing you can do about it, you can't get it, there's a slight pause and you start to see things from a new perspective. You're in the opening up phase. All right, then you kind of go right back down the other side of the mountain, and that's when you get into nostalgia and missing, and it just feels terrible that you can't have it, even though you've admitted you can't have it, even though you've seen the reason why and it's a new perspective. It's lockdown, for example. In the Valley of Understanding, it's like, yeah, but I want my hugs. They are still there. I feel them as a presence in my memory. I'm nostalgic for them, and it can feel sad. Right? Then you move on to the next stage, which is the practical recovery from that. So in lockdown, people have been using digital connection to create the connection that's missing from the hugs, and they've been passing loving energy to each other in different ways, haven't they? Instead of it being physical loving energy, it's been conversational loving energy, or sending a photograph, a meme, or posting a funny video to try and cheer people up. We've found practical ways to overcome that sense that it's not there, and replaced it with a kind of an alternative, which is the best that you can do at the time, right? And then in this sort of scenario, we're communicating about it. It's not been a secret process that anyone's gone through. The sharing of this sense of lack and the missingness is really, really important, because it helps you to understand that you're not alone. And in lockdown, I think that's been really helpful for a lot of people, talking to each other and saying, I had a crap day today. I really want to get my hair cut. Whatever. I know lots of people have been quite derisive of this kind of thing, but it's been a reality for people.
Yes.
So the communication aspect of the recovery journey, I mean, this could be a journey that lasts a day, it can be a journey that lasts an hour, it can be a journey that lasts 6 months or a year, longer even, if you really are dealing with a serious issue that you're recovering from. And then after you've gone through this practical recovery stage, you've got coping strategies in place. You've created an alternative structure, and that means that you can walk out through the gateway of evolution, because once you've done that and you've communicated and you know that you're not alone, it's okay, it's safe to make the personal transformation. And in the case of missing the loving energy and feeling sad because you haven't got it, the personal transformation and the evolution would be feeling okay about it, because in actual fact there's something that has been provided for you that will create a support in the meantime.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to find the words for when I was about the dogs.
So that was really interesting. Thanks, Natasha, because this focus that I've got on recovery as from addiction is very prominent in my mind at the moment, because that's the nature of the book that I'm writing. That we started all this talking about how there's so many other things in society that people have to recover from. Maria says, I think it's opened some people up to communication that normally they don't have. Absolutely. And isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, that is wonderful.
It really is. I'll watch it back. Okay, no worries, Natasha, bye. Yeah. But isn't communication important?
I'm so grateful for the internet. I mean, can you imagine how intense all this would have been without the internet, really? That would have been, I think even for me, that I'm used to being alone, I think that would have been hard, because, not being able to be in touch with my daughter, for example, who's miles away, and my friends,
Yeah.
I think that would have been harder.
Yeah. So just before, just for the last sort of 10 minutes, just before we kind of start thinking about signing off, there's one more thing that I would like you to do. If you've got a pen and paper.
Yeah, I've got one. Guys, grab pen and paper if there's anybody still there. Kathy's not spoken. Kathy's usually... Are you there, Kathy? Right,
Yeah.
if everybody's got pen and paper.
It's okay. I just checked on the comments, so we haven't missed any yet. So just write down those 6 landmarks in the recovery journey, and bear in mind that we're talking about recovering from anything, really. So the first one is surrender, and if you write them down with the first letters all in a row, in a vertical row. So the first one is surrender.
Surrender.
The second is open up.
Open up.
Yes.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The third one is understand.
Yeah.
The fourth one is recovery, as in the practicalities of it.
Yeah.
The fourth one is, hang on, SOUR, it's the fifth, communicate.
Communicate.
And the last one is evolve.
Evolve.
So if you look down vertically, the first letters of each of those words make another word. What is that word, Maria?
Sauce.
Sauce.
Not tomato sauce.
Not tomato sauce. Sauce. So the motivation, the point of trying to do any kind of self-development work, any kind of recovery journey, is to get back to the source or the essence of who you really are. Because when we talk about addiction and the need for more of whatever it happens to be, gambling, sex, any kind of addictive, compulsive habit, it's, again, to reiterate, it's because there's a lack of something and you're filling the hole. There's a lack of something. You get far away from who you really are, and your behavior may start to turn into something that isn't a reflection of your essence. So the motivation behind doing this kind of a journey is to find yourself, to get back to the source of who you are. It's like somebody who goes to do a big trek on Mount Everest, or like myself, I went into the desert and lived in the desert for 4 months to try and really cut out all the extra and get back to the source of where you are. So
yes, that's brilliant. I love that. So is the book available right now, Aja, or is it still in process?
it's still in process. I'm in a full-on writing scenario at the moment, and I'm aiming for December. December 21st is the date that I've set for it to be released onto the world.
Brilliant.
I'm apart from my personal Facebook, which anyone's welcome to send me a friend request if they like. I'm not really paying too much attention to social media. I'm building a website for the book at the moment, and you're welcome to email me at rjraymondhealingarts@gmail.com if you've got any questions, or you want to connect with me in any way. On the website, which it'll be going public soon enough, I would imagine in the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks, I'll send that link. You'll be able to pre-order a copy and get 20% off your copy. And hi, Kathy. Yeah, it is finding contentment. Absolutely. I mean, you arrived just after we've had a conversation about how once you release this need for more in whatever sense it is, it allows you, and it allows you to understand that you have everything that you need, at least internally, and then, as I'm sure you're well aware, sends out that frequency into the universal matrix and allows fulfilling and abundance into your life. It's so ironic. But to me, it just illustrates the yin yang theory, you know, emptiness and fullness, and emptiness and fullness, and how they're in relationship to each other. And in order to find that harmony, you have to give full gratitude and honor each one, and recognize where you're trying to fill something because you feel empty, and when it's appropriate to allow the emptiness to stay like that in order for something else to fulfill that space.
Yeah, beautiful. So sorry, I interjected there with the book with a comment, but you said something about pre-ordering it. Is it going to be a hard copy or digital, or both?
Just give me a second, because I've just switched on to live comments, and I've got, there's a comment here from Maria, and it says, I learnt that when I was homeless.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. It's on the screen now. Yeah. So we were talking earlier, I don't know if you had signed on then, we were talking about the path of the wounded healer, Maria.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting that you get so many opportunities when you've chosen in this life to walk the path of a wounded healer? You get so many opportunities and tests and initiations, which are opportunities for growth. And so if you learned that as you were because you were homeless, it's the perfect illustration of a very beautiful gift that you were given. And I know that you're already there because I watched your interview with Maria the other week, and it's nice that you've joined us on this. I'm really pleased about that. So I know that you're already there on this, but for other people who have heard that saying, oh, all our challenges are gifts and it's an opportunity to grow, and they're kind of going, yeah, right, that's a load of rubbish. It really very, very much is, because if you sit in the same position for the entirety of your life and you never have any challenges, how are you going to grow? Even a plant needs dark and light in order to kind of generate this constriction, and there's a rhythm to things. You know, you need movement. We do it in our breathing, in and out, that we have to, again, going back to this, how do you know when a good apple is good? When you know what a bad one is. And I think anyone who's working on themselves and then chooses to share those lessons that they've learned with other people, that they are offering their gifts. And I really appreciate that you put that comment on there, Maria, because to me, the harder the stuff that we go through, the more light we can draw from it. And one of the reasons why I'm enjoying working and interviewing addicts is that addicts, specifically drug addicts and alcoholics, they work with dark and light a lot. There's a couple of quotes here from an interview, and one of the girls was saying about where she had to look in order to do this reflection, and in the opening up place, and she said it's a dark place that she had to look into, and she's grabbing onto any piece of light, because you know that there's a rope ladder somewhere at the end, and it's illuminated. You've just got to find it, and you know that you have to haul yourself out. And she also says that she uses the phrase ray of light. There is always a ray of light somewhere in all of that, in this dark little cave. And we've all had those moments, haven't we?
Yeah. There's always a silver lining. That's what I used to say many years ago. There's always a silver lining.
Yes.
You just got to see it.
Yeah.
Talking of silver linings, I'm just going to put a light on. Carry on.
Okay, so Kathy's again put a very nice comment here as well. That's how the population seems to be at the moment, fear and acceptance. Absolutely. And so for me, it's been really fascinating writing about addiction and recovery in the context of everything that we're seeing in society at the moment, because the voice of the recovering addict, I believe, and it's one of my motivations for writing this book, is that the voice of the recovering addict has actually got a lot of value in the way that society is at the moment. We all have to, especially now, our attention has been drawn to the things that society needs to recover from, and the lessons that a recovering alcoholic or a recovering drug addict goes through. They are universal lessons. It's a universal journey, a recovery journey. A lot of the time they are sidelined as worthless and not valuable at all in society. But I think, and I believe, that society has got an addiction to more, and that society needs to go through this recovery journey. And if there's any time that it's worth listening to the voice of people who've been through a specific addiction recovery journey, now is the time.
Yeah, I agree. I think, to be honest, all the people I know that are recovered addicts or recovering addicts, because I don't think you ever fully recover, do you? I mean, you speak more on that, but I think the addiction's always there, isn't it? It's like with smokers. If you stop smoking in 20 years' time, you still might crave a cigarette.
Well, it's very interesting, you see, because that is an approach, a reality for many people, that they constantly have to live with their addiction, even if they're constantly in recovery. And that has come from very much also from the 12-step programs, the Alcoholics Anonymous program. And I understand that that is true for some people. One of the propositions of my book is that there is a place beyond recovery, that you can actually at some point lay your addiction down. You can lay your recovery down. You can permanently leave through the gateway of evolution. You don't have to go back there anymore, and you can be recovered.
Right, brilliant. Yeah, I love that.
it's controversial for some people, because the majority of people who go through addiction recovery, they do it in a 12-step program. And what I'm saying isn't against that in any way, but it's my personal experience. And
well,
that's all.
I've never done a 12-step program, so I've no idea. But I used to be quite a heavy drinker. Mainly weekend binge drinking when I used to go out partying, right? I didn't really drink at home sometimes if we had a party. But I just stopped drinking like that. You know, for me, that weren't an issue. But then I've got friends, or I had friends years ago when I was in my early 20s, and my friend's husband, he used to have a pint of lager every night, and he was classed as an addict because he couldn't go without that one pint of lager every night. So I find that really interesting as well. You know, just being an addict doesn't mean that you have to overindulge either.
No, it's a habitual, it's a compulsive habit, something that if it's taken away from you, causes some kind of suffering.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the end,
I never missed the drinking. Once I stopped, that was it. That was fine. So I can kind of get the recovered bit, because I'm not bothered about having a drink, you know.
well, I'd like to think if we take it back to that kind of wider thing about society needs to recover, I'd really like to think that society can get to the point where it has recovered.
Yeah.
You know, that and this is probably going to be a process that takes hundreds of years.
It's possible.
But I really would like to think from the bottom of my heart that we can get to the place where we don't have to be constantly, you know, pushing to recover, that there is a place beyond.
Yeah.
And just at the end, because I know that we're at the end, and you do like to say to people, well, what tips have you got? Well, we're at the end of lockdown, so this is the perfect opportunity to just have a little check-in with yourself, and ask yourself, are there things that I have been addicted to? Shopping or whatever it happens to be, you know, that it's now being offered to me again on a plate. Am I going to choose to take it, or have I made over the lockdown a journey which means that I'm ready to make a bit of personal change in my life? And if that makes you feel tense, go through the tensing yourself exercise and then into relaxation, and then just put your hands on your heart and connect to your heart. And love yourself, and allow yourself to go through the change.
Yeah.
You try to tell clients in hypnotherapy they don't get it. Well, it's a work in progress always, isn't it, Maria? You know, it really is a work in progress for all of us, and for clients, our clients alike. You know, everyone's got their own pace, haven't they? And sometimes people have to go through this revolving gate time and time again and retrace the steps and redo the journey. And we just have to be there to hold the space and kind of, you know, do the best that we can, because I think that's all we can do. I think as long as we are doing the best that we can with what we've got, you can't really say fairer than that, can you?
No. And you know, and the vision of a healed world, I try and hold that vision all the time, because I think that's, if we focus on the bad stuff all the time, then we're just emphasizing that, aren't we? We're just feeding that energy. So if we focus more on the healed version, I think we've got more chance of it maybe taking less than hundreds and thousands of years, if we can all find that place of acknowledgement. I think
that's I think that's wonderful. Yeah, it's a wonderful place to kind of wind it up, really, isn't it? You know, it couldn't be more positive. We've gone into radio show mode. I don't know if it's the same for you over there, but both my screens are frozen.
Are they frozen?
Well, mine are. They may not be.
No, it's not frozen this side.
Okay.
I wonder my computer's not blown up with all the sweat that's pouring off me though.
So that's it really from me anyway.
Well, thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing your book, and I want a signed copy.
You'll be one of the first, Maria. And if anyone wants to get in touch with me, you know my address is just rjraymondhealingart@gmail.com. And thank you so much for everyone who was watching.
Yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Please share the video out. And thank you to anybody who watches afterwards. And if anybody would like to connect with RJ, the link will be on the YouTube channel. If I've not already put it on there, I'll put it on after. And we don't have a live feed, unfortunately, because I haven't got anybody in. But the week after, I've got my friend in Cyprus. She's actually English Cypriot, I think, like me. And she is a life coach, which should be really interesting. So thank you again, Bex. You are a superstar. I love you loads. And thank you to everybody for joining us this evening again. And we'll look forward to seeing you next time. Namaste. Lots of love, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.